Hey everybody, Edo here, and for this week's video, I want to show you how to look at and think about an annual budget for your business. Now actually, I did a video maybe 1 or 2 years ago where I looked at how to do a budget for a Kickstarter project, like specific to each game, where I took the different costs and laid out, and I built a spreadsheet. The actual spreadsheet that I use, and I created a Google sheet or whatever it's called, and made it publicly available to, and not with my actual information, but with example numbers, and I made it available to anyone to use. I'll link that in the description if you're not familiar with it, but the point of that was to provide Kickstarter creators a template to think about how they're building out and pricing out their project. And it was the type of thing I've used and continue to use, actually. If you go look at that spreadsheet, I'm still doing stuff pretty close. Maybe I've tweaked it a little bit since, but it's pretty much that. So one of the things that I did this year, which I had not done previously, was I built out a annual plan, budget, forecast for Pencil First Games. I've been running the business for a long time, but generally speaking, it was project to project, and I didn't have a lot of ongoing costs, and I could sort of use that, like, as long as I make sure each and everything's profitable, it's going to be fine. However, as I looked at it this year, or heading into this year, I was taking on some additional expenses and considering, bringing on different people to work on different things and trying new initiatives and fun things. And I just decided, hey, I should build out this plan. And so here's the thing. You may or may not know this, but I've been making video games my entire career and technology and a few other things. But I've worked with lots of budgets and like big budgets. I worked for Disney, running their mobile studio and social studio at different times. And so I've looked at really big budgets for really big companies, as well as other technology, a variety of companies I've worked for of varying sizes. And I have to say, it's amazing. Everyone basically uses Excel, right? Like, there are different places that information's kept and scores and QuickBooks and all that kind of things. But in terms of like thinking about your budget and your budget planning, like, it's Excel. And so I built this, I didn't use any examples. I just sort of built it from memory, the types of things I would think about when I was looking and had a huge P&L, a profit and loss, a budget that I was carrying and working through, and employees. I mean, I've run studios with not hundreds, but like 100 employees, like sort of under my umbrella, that I had to account for, right? And so I've put a bunch of that into this. What I'll emphasize before going into it, and we're going to jump right in, but what I'll emphasize is this is not meant to be your budget. Like, what this should do, and it's not accounting. This isn't about taxes, isn't it? This is me showing you a variety of ways to think about your revenue and think about your expenses and look at it and plan it over time. And whether or not you want to do this, do it by hand, whether you want to export it from somewhere else, whether you're doing something else, that's fine. The value of this is having you think about it, right? Like, just the worksheet of doing it is super valuable. And I'll show you how you might see something like, oh, we run out of money. That's the kind of thing you're looking at. There's a huge chart, but really at the end of the day, you're sort of looking on like, each month, am I making money and am I losing money by how much, and how does it fluctuate as I go? And so this is an example. It is effectively mine. I cleaned it up and I added some notes and stuff, but this is like what I do. And again, this isn't how I do my accounting. This isn't how I look at it at a project by project budget. This is specifically how I'm looking at essentially the money coming in and going out of Pencil First Games, and what's happening to it, and when there might be a problem, and when I might have to say, oh, I want to do a print run of this many copies, but that means we run out of money. So let's not do that. Let's do half as many. And so hopefully it's helpful. I have to turn the camera around, as in share my screen, but it should still pick up my audio and all that stuff. So hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully people use it. But again, fourth time I'm saying this, I'm not promising you the spreadsheet's perfect, right? Like, this is not meant to be inclusive. This is meant to be an example that you can then think about as you do what you normally do with your stuff. All right? Cool. Let's flip it around. All right. Here we go. So, like, look, this is a lot of information, right? So, like, first off, I'm going to share this link. People will have access to it. I don't give edit. You get view. What you do is you will copy the file. You go, I've minimized the view here for a second, but if I bring this back, you go here and you make a copy. Make a copy. It becomes your document, and then you edit it to your heart's content. This one's locked, so everyone gets the info, but you go to make a copy here, and you can do whatever you want. All right, so let's go back to full screen. Hopefully this works fine. Dismiss. Okay, so as I said, what we're looking at is an annual budget. That's 1 year, January to December. You can start in February. Since we're in February, you can start them on whatever you'd like. But the point here is to get a large range. Also, I've broken these into financial quarters, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. You might get into some argument with a retailer where they think, they're talking about Q4 being posted in January, like December, like some other basic Q4s. But from a general company finance, this is how I've done it. It doesn't really matter. If it helps you, it helps you. It's 3-month blocks. Some people do it January, December. Some people offset it for tax purposes. Again, this isn't about tax. So we have some major things here. The months, and then just since I have this locked here so that I can see the months and these other pieces, I have some notable things like, hey, there's taxes. You have your Kickstarter, your first Kickstarter. Maybe you're going to do another one. Maybe there's Gen Con. This is an opportunity. You could add 5 rows here. You could say, actually, I want to list more things. I want to have, I want to put cons here, conventions, and I want to put Kickstarters here, and I want to do what you want. But the point of this section is, hey, just major things to keep in mind as you're scrolling past and they disappear, right? Okay. I will go through this slowly, but we have in green our revenue sources. These are positive numbers. In red, we have expenses in different groups, and there's lots of different expenses I'll walk through. And then at the bottom, there's the delta for the month, right? So between the revenue I've brought in, so basically adding up, look at that. So we're going to fix that. For those who don't know, you can take this sum and I can go get those lines. So this is going to change some numbers. I'm going to extend this across. You don't need to know how to do this, but it never hurts. Actually, it was this one that was wrong, right? So that just changed those deltas. Now these are all correct. They go all the way to the top as intended. And the balance takes the negative. Oh, that needs to be corrected too. So, I'm not going to refilm this because I think, it's important for you to look at your formulas and understand it. So again, basically, I might ruin an example I wanted to do, but it's okay. It just shifts the numbers. You want to check if this is right. So now I'm going to look again. It goes all the way up. And then B4 is the balance, right? So this equals the money I have plus the sum of all the negatives, right? So it's a plus, but this is a negative number. So it's a negative, right? So anyway, the point is, now that that's corrected, what this is looking at is it's looking at all of the delta, the good and the bad. What does it come out to? It's negative. And then what does that mean to your balance? And then what it does is it's taking the balance and then it's applying it here. So this says, look at B97. Guess what? B97 is over here. I don't want to get too bogged down in how spreadsheets work, but it is, basically, so there's a balance. We're summing up a bunch of stuff, finding out if it's positive or negative, and giving you the new balance, and then rolling it over, doing it again, rolling it over. I'll talk a little bit about how I use this practically when I'm using my money, but we'll get there from there. Okay. So let's dive in here. And these are made up numbers. These aren't certainly not my numbers, but first off, we have some main revenue sources, right? Perhaps you're using a consolidator, like an Impressions or a PSI, and there are different deals, but I've sort of averaged it here. And this isn't like, I don't apply this percentage. This is just an idea. Like this is just 5,000. I'm not using these percentages. It's just like a quick look. Or you're selling into distribution. You don't have a consolidator. You're selling into distribution at 40% of whole MSRP. Or maybe you're direct to retail at 50% of MSRP wholesale, and this is how much you're getting. And or maybe you're just online sales, and I have 95% here because you're going to pay Shopify or whatever, Stripe, to do your 5% transaction fee. Again, the point isn't what these percentages. The point is today you're a business. Your business makes money somehow. If you're in the board game business, it's probably one of these three, and we can talk about Kickstarters and stuff in a second. But so let's say you work with PSI and you don't do any of these things. Okay, cool. Just go like this. Delete these rows and just put that number. These comments and then you can also delete this because no one needs this, right? That's just my extra note. We will put it back. If you didn't know, Command Z will undo. Good to use. Okay. So you're going to whatever's appropriate here. And, what you're doing is right now in white here is sort of January. We're in February now. So January, we're assuming these are the actual numbers. When I look at February, March, April, these are estimates. So part of this process is going through and estimating how much you're doing. How much did you get sales in January? How much do you think it's going to be in February? How much is it going to be in March? What was it the year before? Maybe your online sales are weak in January, still 1,000, but they get better. And they're 2,000 in Feb. And for this much, and then they go to 3,000, and actually end a year they're 10,000, right? Whatever the number, maybe they're 100, whatever the number is, you're estimating what it's going to be. Then each month, what you're doing is you're seeing what the actual is. So you use Shopify, you pull sales for January, and this isn't going to be 1,000. It's going to be, 1,020.50. Okay, cool. You have the actual number. It's meant to be the actual number, but it also means you said, well, I estimated 1,000. I was right. Let's say this number turned into 3,000. Oh, well, then this number's probably wrong. So I'm going to go through and then I'm going to increase and readjust my plan. It's looking at and thinking about your plan as you go. That's the utility of a spreadsheet like this. It isn't perfect. It's simply forcing you to estimate what's going to happen and see what's going to happen, update your estimates, right? Retail, distribution, whatever, however you get paid, maybe this is a pulling from QuickBooks or your sales manager or distributors. You're adding up check stubs, whatever, you're going to tally it, okay? Chances are you're not doing all four of these. Chances are you're not doing a lot of these things. I'm trying to help different people with different businesses. Okay, well, let's say you're also doing Kickstarters. Well, these are estimates. I think my Kickstarter is going to be 60K. Is it? Isn't it? How aggressive is that estimate? Maybe it's 30K. You're going to have to live with your estimates and how aggressive you're being. I will show you later that you should use this to assess risk. If 60K is your dream number, then that might mean some of the estimations that you have at the bottom don't make sense. And if it turned out this was 20K, instead of that, suddenly something that looked great starts not looking as great. So, again, or maybe you wanted to have your Kickstarter in May and you didn't get it together and it was in July. Well, what happens there? Whoa, you have 3 months in the red. Not good, right? So that's the kind of thing this exposes. Okay, so if Kickstarter revenue, one Kickstarter, hey, you're only doing one, delete it. You're just assuming your Kickstarter was last year, this is forward. Delete both lines and just start your bank account with whatever it is. This first number, whether it's in January or February or whatever, just put what's in your bank account. Also note, if you don't have a company-specific bank account, get a company-specific bank account, company-specific bank account, company-specific credit cards. Don't use your personal account. Don't do it. It's fraught with peril and hard to reconcile. Just create another account. It's really easy. Okay. Oh, and also somebody was asking me, say you're working with a consolidator and they're like, well, they put a storage fee here. The point here, you can make this as detailed and accurate as possible. And if you want to put everything together, but if you get a bunch of money from somewhere and they have some fees attached to it, but at the end of the day, you get a check that's, $5,200, just put $5,200. This isn't meant to be onerous, right? You're just trying to get an idea. Now, okay, maybe you also run pledge managers. So you have this campaign and your pledge manager is not going to be, this could be on the same month, I guess, but, this runs after the campaign and it starts good, 5%, and then it drops some more. Whatever. This campaign does it. Maybe you don't use pledge managers. Then delete the lines. Like, it's easy. But basically, you're trying to think about it. Now, again, if you have a previous Kickstarter, you have an idea. Let's say you don't. Hey, Ed, I don't have a previous Kickstarter. I am using a pledge manager. What should I expect? What should I put in? Well, the easiest thing to put in, always, when it comes to revenue, is 0. Because if you can balance with 0, then you're good. It doesn't matter. But maybe you can't, and maybe you don't want to. But what I would look at is find other creators who are about the size of your business with a product at about the price point, and see what percent of revenue got picked up in the pledge manager, right? It also depends on whether you have other products in there. Okay. These are typically going to be your big numbers. Maybe conventions were bigger for some companies, especially pre 2020. But I put this line here. This line doesn't matter. This line doesn't matter. Again, you copy it to your place, and if this isn't helpful for you, just delete them, right? Make it yours. Okay. But you're running conventions, you're selling stuff, you're going to make some money. Maybe you make 150K here, maybe 5,000. Maybe this was, I don't know, what Origins. I guess that's early. Like, some pre-Gen Dice Tower Con. I don't remember which one happens first. But maybe you're like, oh, Gen Con's the big one, and this one's going to be 10K. That's what we did last year, and we've got more games now. Cool. Great. That's fine. Please note, this is not what it costs. This is what you're expecting to make. Okay? Just other examples. Say you got some localization deals. There's all sorts of different deals. Maybe you have a deal that somehow is paying you monthly. Most don't do this, but maybe it does. So put it in monthly. What you expect your average to do. Actually, if you're doing like a regional distribution deal where they're selling your product in a market, that's a monthly. Actually, I pulled this because actually we do have a partner that is in this model. But more often than not, you're going to get paid quarterly for a loc deal. Sometimes it's yearly. Maybe you're recouping in advance. The other model, which I often do, would be like localization on print, which would be like, hey, we're going to pay you 50% of the cost to print this up front and 50% on completion. So that would be around a print, right? Revenue streams. It gets small. I mean, these can be big. There could be lots of them. I also find that this can be a good reminder. Like, say this company only pays me once a year, and I look at my notes and say, oh, I'm supposed to invoice them or bug them in July, as an example. Then I'm coming in July and I'm like, oh, I haven't heard from them. I better bug them. So that's another value here. Other revenue, like, hey, maybe you get ad revenue from YouTube videos, or maybe you get a royalty because you're a Kickstarter creator, designer, whatever, and you, I was a co-designer of Murder of Crows with Atlas Games. The game still sells so many years later, and I get quarterly checks for that title. They're actually smaller than the numbers here, but I do get a little bit every quarter. And at some point, I rolled it into Pencil First Games. So Pencil First Games just gets it. It's fine. But that's just an example. Or maybe you get something once a year. I don't know. Different people, different partnership. None of this applies to you. Just delete it. Just get it away. Yours might be 1/4 the size of this. Great. That means it's easier. I actually just started adding stuff just for the sake of giving everyone some insight. And again, if you're like, hey, you missed something, you'd add this, let me know. Let me know in the comments. I'm not giving people edit access, but if I missed a category of revenue, I'll add it, whatever. I just want this to be useful. Okay. This is the stuff coming in. Now let's go to the stuff coming out. Also, worth note, I use negative and positive numbers here. There are ways to set this up where you're just putting in numbers and it knows that these are expenses and I didn't do any of that. So the only thing to note is if you write this in and you don't make that a negative 3,000, you're adding money. So just make sure you have positive above the line, negative below. All right, let's move on. expenses, all sorts of different types of expenses. All right, so maybe you have full-time employees, and I'm saying fully loaded. I'll explain what that is in a second. But employee number 1 gets this much. Employee number 2 gets this much per month. These aren't terribly high wages, but, the board game industry is the board game. Whatever it is. Pencil First Game doesn't have any employees. I've just made these numbers up, right? Like, maybe they're getting $10,000. Like, I don't know. I totally made these numbers up just to make them round. But what you would typically do here is this would include the full cost to the company per month, whether there's a tax implication, whether there's health insurance, this would be quote unquote fully loaded with all of it that it costs. This might not be what the employee gets, but it would be what you spend, right? So if you have health insurance, you might have a health insurance fee, but this would be what they're loaded. If that's too complicated, it doesn't work for you, just put their salaries here and then put the expenses otherwhere. This can be whatever you want. So here's some employees. And hey, maybe you're planning to hire somebody when you're doing your first Kickstarter. Well, don't forget to put them there, right? You can put, these are, just to be clear, on my budget, these have names. Again, there's no employees, but these other things have names next to them, which yours should too. You want to know what the things are. It's not meant to be abstract. Contractors. Okay, maybe you have somebody who's not an employee, but they're a contractor. You pay them regularly. These are regular expenses. You have a contractor who does your website and it works regularly, but not every month. So there's some on and off. And maybe you have a contractor who uses all the time, but only around Kickstarters, like your graphic designer. Well, but somebody who's like consistent enough that you regularly use them, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Just, you want to be able to predict it. But like, if you spent this here, then put it there. Like, it's just about the thought process. Okay, and maybe you have a designer who's getting royalties, and you pay them royalties monthly, perhaps. Okay, cool. Maybe it's quarterly on some amount. Maybe it's an artist that you pay once a year based on total prints or something. Now, here's an example of a designer on print. Like there's everything and anything. I don't know what this is. There's everything and anything that you could imagine for these numbers, right? So I'm just trying to create an example. Again, the reason these are white is it's saying these are in January are fixed. What I'll do is, like, let's say sometimes you pay in half, but like, let's say over here in the middle of the year, like, I get this payment like in February 12th or something. I don't have the thing, but I'll make this white. I'll say, all right, I got this payment. It's not going to change. Locked in. This one I haven't got yet. Maybe it's bigger, maybe it's smaller. It's not locked in. So at the end of the month, all of these are white. That's what I do to remind myself what's come and not come. Okay. Talk. So this is a minor distinction, but I find that I had people again, I didn't have any people in employee groups, but I had people in all three of these groups. So I have regular contractor expenses, development royalties and expenses, but then project-driven contractor expenses. So these are people who like only exist for one thing, right? You've hired this artist. They're working on one project. This graphic design, maybe this was somebody but it's all like around a project. This designer just came in and, helped out a little bit, did some development, or you have a developer who's helped out. Maybe you're paying for a tabletop simulator or something, or this is probably not this much, but whatever it is. Pencil First Games, we use a subject matter expert for the Tory, somebody who comes in and helps us make sure that we're accurate in what we're doing. There's a cost there. Maybe you're paying to localize your rule book into another language, but based on a specific game. So these are really like, I know I need to pay some. These are often milestones. I sign a contract with this artist. This contract is for a total of $3,500 paid in these tranches. Maybe this isn't the exact timing, but I'm like, between the work, this is going to take about 2 months of work. It is very common for a milestone to be here, but I don't know, maybe the milestone didn't get done, or it was the end of the month or whatever, and the payment is the next month. Just move it over, right? Real easy. And again, you can't see my keyboard, but I'm just Control X, Control V, Command X, Command V, that kind of thing, Command Z, that kind of thing. You'll be expert in no time. All right. These are all people related. And again, you're not going to have 20 lines here. You're going to have 4. You're going to have 5. I just wanted to like give an idea, right? Because I think people don't necessarily do this. Okay. But then there's expenses. All right. So perhaps you have reoccurring business expenses. Oh, well, you have rent. It's the same every month. Every month is $500. Insurance. Maybe this isn't health insurance, which could be a little weirder. And it's just, fire insurance or something. I don't know. You're paying for your internet. You're paying for your phone. You've got a Shopify. You got a Google Drive. You have a Google Workspace, and you've got 3 people in it. You are paying for Slack. You've got a Dropbox account. You're paying warehouse storage for some amount of products or something, right? Whatever. This, and if you don't know, if you select a group of things in Google Docs, I just go like this. Look here in this corner. It'll sum it up for you. Super useful. You can average. You can do min-maxes. This is really how many are in there. Super useful. You just want to check something quick. Blink. Oh, just in these recurring business expenses, I'm paying almost $1,200 a month or whatever. Now, you might have things that are reoccurring but not that frequent, like Gamma membership. Gamma. You're going to do it once a year. Or like an easy example is like Adobe. I have their Creative Suite. I think it's not $500. I think it's $594. Whatever it is, every July, they're going to charge me. All right, well, I know it's there. And eventually, right, you take this budget and you make the next year's budget. Okay, but these are things that, without fail, reoccurring are in here. If this is your personal account, it might say Netflix, right? Like that's that kind of thing. Okay. Then there's this distinction, reoccurring budgeted expenses, okay? I know roughly every month I'm going to spend up to $500 in just mailing stuff to reviewers or to backers or to sale, or well, not really backers because that would be fulfillment, but like just there's always some amount of expense, and over time you know how much it is. I think actually for the average person this is probably a high number, but maybe not. Depends on how big your business is. Let's maybe go to 200. Another quick tip: if you want to drag a number across, you can go like this, that little square, and you just drag it across, and it'll take that number, put it all the way across. If you want to do something with a range where this goes to 300. And you want this to count up, there's some things you can hold down. I forget. I know it is in Excel. But if you grab the 2, it will continue the pattern. Useful. So anyway, and maybe you want to have a budget for R&D, for buying board games. And you're like, oh, I'm going to buy 100. I have up to $100 a month. Each month, it might not be 100. Like this might have turned into $89.9 on 2 games. But you have it there, and hey, maybe you need food, and you budget allocate food for your team or whatever. This section might be big. Entertainment, you could break it out. It might not be. Hopefully, you can tailor it as much as you need. If you're over budget, you might be like, guess what, guys? We're not buying any more stuff, right? Like, you got to do that stuff. Okay. So now we're almost there. Now we have non-reoccurring business expenses, okay? These are things that happen, but they're not like regular enough that they're happening constantly. I guess this marketing one arguably could have probably been put up, but marketing's a little weird because you're not going to necessarily do it. So just for the sake of making this look, all right, let's do this. Okay. There's those conventions. Guess what? This 1,500 aligns to that revenue. Does it? I'm off by a month. So maybe I moved it at some point. Boop, 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 boop. So, yeah, I earned, where is it? I earned 5,000 at this convention, but it cost me 1,500. Cool. And this wouldn't say convention. It would say, Gen Con. You also, like, you could break out the flight, you could do a convention budget, but typically you will have, make a new tab in your thing. In this sheet, call, Gen Con, and build out your budget, and it says, total, rev is, after you do this, is X. I don't know, maybe I'll make this higher. And total expense is Y. And if you're really sophisticated, if let's say this expense was 2,000, like if, again, I'm not teaching everyone how to do this, but if I wanted to be really sneaky, and this is adding up all these numbers, so like, okay, let's just do this just to show you what you could do if you wanted to spend the time. Blah 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 blah. I'm gonna say, let's just make these all dollars. I can't bring back the, which is quickly. It probably would have been fine with a 45, but whatever. We'll just do this. Boop. So we're gonna say this equals, right? You could click on it and then hit a plus, and you could click on it and then hit a plus, and you could skip 2 and then hit a plus, and you could do that, and that's going to give me 135. Or you say equal sum bracket parentheses that, right? And now it gives me the total. So what you can do, 405 for total expenses. I could go to this budget. Again, it'd be more significant. Say this was Genkar. Rather than having a number here, I say this equals, click, click, click. I hit enter. It equals 405. Uh-oh. Hey, Joe, we forgot an expense. That hotel, whatever. Let me put it here. I don't know. Whatever. That hotel was $1,000. Uh-oh. It updates, right? So you can build it out this way, but the point of that whole tangent was this is supposed to be the big numbers. And this, even today, this might be too detailed. You might put like all of these supplies somewhere else. It just depends on what you like and how you want to do it. Easy peasy. Okay? Just, it's a little detail oriented. Not everyone likes doing this. Oh, it broke. It's like, I can't find that sheet. What are you doing? I'm not hitting that many Control Z's is what I'm doing. So I'm going to put this back here. Okay. Produce spiel cost me $50 as an entrance fee. Fine. Marketing. Hey, I periodically do marketing. I don't know always when it is, but then hey, for Kickstarter, I'm going to bump that marketing up when it's running. Maybe during Gen Con, I'll market a little bit more. Whatever. You'll get it. Banking and wires. I don't know. I always end up having so many banking and wire fees. I use TransferWise too now, which is pretty awesome if you don't use TransferWise, but still. Whatever. Maybe you do a newsletter with MailChimp. It's small for your regular one. For your Kickstarters, you go big. Whatever. Maybe you have some staff training events. Maybe you apply for a trademark, which apparently costs like $500. I mean, there's all sorts of non-reoccurring expenses that you're going to add in here as you go, right? If it was food, you would add into your food. And look, you can do this. You can say this equals my $20 thing here, and my $40 thing here, and my, whatever it is, if you want to do it that way, or you could sum it up, or you could just total it at the end of the month, right? All right, so tax or deductible related expenses, I sort of break these up. Maybe you're donating to a charity. This is more for the end of the year. You buy a computer. These are just a reminder that this relates to tax. But the other thing you want to do is you want to put in numbers for taxes. You're going to have a big tax bill. Maybe if you did a Kickstarter, it's really big. You really want to at least call it out. Even if you don't know it, guess, ask, try to put something there. Also, you might, depending on how much money you make, you may have to do quarterly payments, monthly payments, so you can bucket them in here. But knowing that you have a tax is really important. Lastly, and you could put these, again, if you want to move it up. Oh, really cool. You want to move something in Google Docs thing that Excel doesn't do that I love is you highlight a set and you just go, whoa, I want this up here. I just moved it. It is so useful. You can do it in Excel, but not as easily. Or even you're like, I want to switch this row with, it's mad because this is merge. Hey, if you have any merge problems, let me get out of full screen for a second. If you have any merge problem, there's this button here. It's merge cells. It's like a circle, a square with arrows heading in. Just unmerge it. It'll put it at the top, and then it'll stop complaining at you. Or just delete this whole column, and that's the only merge you have going for you. Okay. Another little tidbit. These lines in between, the black lines, are actually separate rows. I am a big copy, paste, drag, mess around with the cells. And if you put lines on cells, it's a headache. So that's how I do it. You don't have to do it that way. You do you. Okay. So large printer shipping expenses. This is going to be your big nuts. Most people, it's going to be like 2 or 3 things up here, 5 or 8 things here, and then this stuff. Hey, I'm reprinting a game. It's going to cost me $8,000 for game 1, $5,000 for game 2. I'm doing these log prints, and then I got to ship them. Shipping happens after prints completing. This is a lot of money I'm spending here. Then maybe I don't have to do it for a while. But maybe I had a licensor that has an on-print fee. So that was game 2. I don't know. And when I printed it, I printed 2,000 copies, and I owe Marvel $1 a copy or whatever. We go through it. Going ahead, we have our Kickstarter in May, finish the files, $10,000 print run, 50% start, 50% finish. Then we got to ship, and I got to ship to the U.S., and I got to ship worldwide, because then that's going to get split, in the United, in the EU or United Kingdom or whatever. Later on, after they freight, then you have to pay for the shipping of the product, like direct to backers. Maybe you have a reprint for $10,000 that's broken up over two prints, and then you got to ship it. So those are big numbers and big expenses. So you're doing all this. You're adding this all up. What you're looking is coming down here and you're saying, oh, look, I'm losing $5,000 in January. In February, mainly because of this, I lost $30,000. I'm still losing money. Oh no. In April, if this is my tax bill, I go in the red. I write a check, it's gonna bounce. Kickstarter comes in on the next project, suddenly things aren't feeling so bad because I've gotten this big bump, but I bounce before that. Well, what do? Well, maybe you're like, well, I don't think it's 10,000 in taxes. I think it's going to be 2,000. Well, maybe you're right. Maybe you're taking risk to get your numbers to work. Maybe in your planning, you say, you know what? I'm not going to reprint this game. Oh, hey, look, I didn't reprint it. I didn't make it. I maybe didn't have to pay a designer either because we didn't do a reprint. I'm going to look at these expenses. I'm going to not use this contractor. I'm going to. Or maybe you're like, I don't think these estimates are right. I'm going to bounce them around, right? These are all the things you do when you're looking at this, and it's supposed to expose that. The last thing I'll say is over time, you make these numbers real, you set them up, and what's going to happen is like, it never is right. What you'll find is like, actually, it wasn't 45. No matter what numbers you have here, this isn't meant to be a perfect accounting, and this turns into 4,200. Well, what I do is let's make this look good. I put in the actual numbers, 376, and I apply this to say that's the actual number. That's what we actually started February with. You can go in and you can update it here if you want. That's up to you. But that way you know that you're rolling forward with the right number. So that's something to keep in mind. I also over here, this is, again, in theory, how much money you're going to end the year with. And then in theory, how much okay, this sums up the negatives and the positives. If I look at the outcome of each month, I put that total together. That total is positive $20,000, $920.24. Congratulations. Good job. That's great. If I add this 20,000 to my starting amount, that's $70,920.24. And guess what? That's what it says there. So those are the checks you want to do. Now, the one thing you might consider is, yes, you ended with 20,000, delta of 20,000, but like, you funded this Kickstarter. You got this, where was it? Up here, this $60,000. But actually, you haven't done any of the things to fulfill it, right? That I don't have Kickstarter 2 here. So really, you probably have a lot of money to spend. So let's just get rid of that for a second. Let's say that Kickstarter doesn't happen. Just as a, this isn't perfect, but if I take that out, actually, you lost $40,000 over the course of the year. And your bank account went from $50,000 to $6,000, right? So like, do those exercises. Think through that stuff. It's really important. I don't know how many people are going to use this. It ultimately grew as I tried to be inclusive, but again, hopefully it's helpful. Please, comments, share all that stuff. Very interested. Adjustments, other sheets, whatever. And this will be available. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks.